As discussed throughout this series, euthanasia is a consideration that all horse owners or caregivers may have to face at some point. Owners and managers are responsible for making decisions in regards to euthanasia. These decisions should never be made without careful consideration of what is best for the horse and for the owner. Euthanasia can be a very difficult decision, and one that owners often do not want to make. You must always keep in mind that this is about the welfare of the animals in your care, and that all horses, donkeys, and mules serve their owners in many ways and deserve a humane end of life. There are multiple situations where horse owners would consider euthanasia. They include poor health, disease, injury, economics, loss of productivity, or safety. The most common of these indicators is illness or injury. When caring for a sick or injured horse, be sure to consult a veterinarian to determine if the horse's condition is treatable and when to cease treatment if the horse is showing no signs of recovery and euthanasia is the best option. Keep in mind, horses are very stoic and may appear fine, eating, drinking, and standing quietly, but in fact are in great pain. Questions that need to be answered during this decision process include: what is the likelihood of recovery or return to an acceptable quality of life? How long should the animal be given to recover? Has the horse become depressed or lethargic? What kind of special care will the animal require, and are you able to meet those needs in terms of your skill level, time, and available facilities? Do you have the financial resources to continue to provide for the animal? Have the chances of recovery improved or declined over the course of treatment? Each of these questions will help you make the responsible and humane decision for your horse. The codes recommend that you work with a veterinarian to develop a plan for euthanasia. The written plan should be kept in a known location and include the following information: the name and contact information of the person responsible for making euthanasia decisions, the contact information for the person responsible for performing the procedure, a schedule for proper maintenance of any euthanasia equipment, and the protocols for disposal of dead stock in accordance with provincial and/or municipal regulations. You should discuss euthanasia with a veterinarian if your horse is experiencing continuous or unmanageable pain from a condition that is chronic and incurable, has a medical condition that has a grave prognosis without surgery, or where surgery is unavailable or unaffordable. If an animal is suffering from a severe traumatic injury, such as a broken leg, a wound that is impacting a major organ, muscle, or skeletal system, it has a disease or condition where the cost of treatment is prohibitive, or has a contagious disease, which is a serious health hazard to other horses or humans. Other indicators for euthanasia include a horse that has dangerous behavioral traits that make it a hazard to itself, other horses, or handlers, or when you are unable to care for the horse and cannot find it a suitable new home. Once you have made the decision that euthanasia is the best option, you need to decide if it is going to be performed on-farm or at an appropriate off-farm facility. Considerations include disposal of the animal following euthanasia, safe access to the animal for euthanasia, the ability to transport the animal, and the emotional considerations for the owners and the caregivers. One of the most important aspects of euthanasia is timeliness. it is not acceptable to delay euthanasia for reasons of convenience or cost. When euthanasia is deemed necessary, it must be performed without delay, particularly in the case of a severe traumatic injury. Leaving a suffering animal to die of natural causes or letting nature take its course is not acceptable. As per the code, equine that are sick, injured, or in pain must receive appropriate treatment or be euthanized without delay. For sick, injured, or compromised horses that are not showing improvement, horse owners or caregivers must, without delay, obtain veterinary advice on appropriate care and treatment, or make arrangements for euthanasia. We will now move on to Section 10.2, which addresses acceptable methods of euthanasia. No matter which method is used, it must be quick, cause minimal pain and distress, and render the animal immediately unconscious. The code requires that an acceptable method of euthanasia must be used, and that it must be performed by persons knowledgeable in the method used for equine. The 3 acceptable methods of euthanasia are lethal injection, administered by a veterinarian, free bullet by gunshot, or a penetrating captive bolt gun, each one deployed by a skilled individual. When choosing a method of euthanasia, the following should be considered: the medical condition of the horse, the ability to restrain the animal, the safety of all bystanders and other animals, how you will be disposing of the animal's carcass, the potential need for sample collection, and the level of comfort with the procedure for the owner, the person performing euthanasia, and any bystanders. Be sure to consider disposal options well in advance, as this may impact the method and location for euthanasia. Refer to your provincial or municipal regulations in regard to disposal of dead stock, as they can vary greatly. The code requires that disposal must be in accordance with provincial and municipal regulations. If gunshot is the method you choose, you must ensure that you are skilled in the use of the firearm you have chosen and have a clear understanding of the proper location for the shot. It is imperative that you utilize a sufficiently powered firearm. For horses heavier than 180 kilograms or 400 pounds, be sure to select a gun that provides a minimum of 1,000 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. Muzzle energy is how hard and fast the bullet travels out of the gun and can be found on the box of ammunition used with your firearm. It must be noted that most handguns are not sufficient for euthanizing a large animal like a horse. This chart shows you the muzzle energy of some of the more popular firearms. If you are utilizing a shotgun, 20, 16, and 12 gauge are the most appropriate. Slugs should be used whenever possible, and number 4, 5, or 6 birdshot is only acceptable for close range. Shotguns do reduce the chance of ricochet, but cannot be used for long-range shots. One of the more commonly referenced firearms is the .22 caliber. As you can see from this chart, there is great variation in the muzzle energy of .22 caliber guns, and some may not provide sufficient power for a horse. Safety is paramount when using a firearm. You need to be aware that if euthanizing a standing horse by gunshot, the horse may reflexively lunge forward or rear up when shot. There is also always a chance of ricochet, as the bullet may bounce off or pass through the horse. Therefore, it is very important to ensure no person or other animal is within the line of fire or the near vicinity where they could be hit by ricochet. The point of entry is critical to effective euthanasia by firearm. In horses, the brain is situated high in the head, as you can see in this diagram, not between the eyes like many believe. The correct point of entry is approximately 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch above the intersection of two diagonal lines, each running from the inside corner of the eye to the base of the opposite ear. The firearm should be held within 15 to 30 centimeters or 6 to 12 inches from the point of entry. Ideally, though not always possible, the firearm should be angled so the trajectory of the bullet follows the angle of the neck or the spine. If you choose to use a captive bolt gun, it is imperative that the tool is one that is designed for euthanasia, as some are designed to only stun an animal and require a secondary step. In the past several years, captive bolt gun manufacturers have developed tools that are designed specifically for euthanasia on farm. Just like firearms, choosing the correct caliber is critical to effective euthanasia. A .25 caliber with an extended bolt is the most effective captive bolt gun for single-step euthanasia. If the captive bolt gun is not the proper caliber, or the proper cartridges are not used, there is a risk that the horse may only be temporarily stunned, and a secondary method will be required. Proper maintenance, in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions, is also essential to effectiveness. Captive bolt guns and firearms that are not maintained will lose power and be ineffective. Now for the proper application of the captive bolt gun. The location of the shot is the same as with firearm, approximately 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch above the intersection of two diagonal lines, each running from the inside corner of the eye to the base of the opposite ear. Just as important as location of the shot is the requirement for the gun to be held firm and flush against the horse's head to ensure maximum concussion and penetration. No matter what method of restraint you choose, it must not put you in harm's way, it must allow easy access to the horse's head, and you must be able to remove the horse after confirming death. This may require restraint if the horse is mobile. Examples of acceptable methods of restraint include a halter and lead rope or a chute of some kind. We will now address secondary methods. A secondary step or kill method may be required to ensure a timely death where the animal does not return to consciousness. There are several reasons why a secondary step may be needed. In some cases, the euthanasia tool may only be capable of temporarily stunning the animal, as previously discussed. The gun or ammunition was not the appropriate strength, or the first shot was not delivered in the proper location. Some animals may also just be harder to euthanize due to the size of their skull. As part of risk management, some people choose to apply a second shot of either a firearm or captive bolt gun, just to ensure that there is no chance of the animal returning to consciousness. Acceptable secondary steps include a second shot with a free bullet or a penetrating captive bolt gun, which should be administered immediately following the first shot. A second injection administered by a veterinarian. A time frame which will be at the discretion of the veterinarian. Other acceptable methods include cardiac puncture, bleeding, or pithing, which is the insertion of a rod into the hole created by the bolt or free bullet and then agitated to destroy the brain. These methods can only be used on animals that are confirmed unconscious and within 30 seconds of the original application. Finally, we will address confirmation of death. In order to achieve a humane death, the animal must be rendered immediately unconscious and it must go on to die without regaining consciousness. Keep in mind that death does not occur immediately, and it may take several minutes for the body to complete the death process. Immediately following application of the method, reflex motor activity or muscle spasms may follow the loss of consciousness and should not be mistaken as an indication of pain or distress. Following the use of the captive bolt gun or gunshot, the initial involuntary movements will normally not begin immediately, but approximately 5 to 20 seconds after the shot. An animal has not been rendered unconscious if the animal vocalizes, attempts to rise, lifts its head off the ground, is breathing, or blinks like a live animal. The indicators of death include the absence of all movement, heartbeat, breathing, and pulse for at least 5 minutes, fixed and dilated pupils, and the absence of all eye reflexes, including blinking and corneal reflex. In regards to confirming death, the code requires that you confirm unconsciousness immediately when it is safe to do so, that you have a secondary euthanasia step or method available, and that you confirm death before moving or leaving the animal. You have now reached the end of this section of the Equine Code of Practice training series. Please click the button below to return to the main Equine Code of Practice training page.